The historical and cultural foundations of the nation should be preserved as a living part of our community life and development in order to give a sense of orientation to the American people. In the 1860s, freighters, packers, and prospectors traveling north from Salt Lake City to gold mines in northern Idaho and western Montana crossed the Snake River in the vicinity of present-day Idaho Falls. Originally named Eagle Rock, marketers convinced town leaders to change the name to Idaho Falls in 1891 in an effort to attract farmers who may have been weary of eagles and rocks. The first business buildings were frame and log, fronting on board sidewalks and dirt streets. As Idaho Falls grew to 1,300 residents at the turn of the 20th century, these buildings were replaced by stone and brick commercial buildings to the east of the original business district. Unfortunately, no buildings from the original business district survived, but several of the city's prominent buildings, built between 1894 and 1940, have been preserved. Since no area of downtown Idaho Falls has a concentration of unaltered historic buildings sufficient to allow for nomination of a downtown historic district, it was decided to nominate the individually eligible buildings within the central business district as National Historic Places. On August 2, 1984, a National Register of Historic Places nomination form was submitted to the United States Department of the Interior National Park Service, nominating 13 buildings in downtown Idaho Falls as National Historic Buildings based on their architectural significance. All 13 buildings were approved and placed on the National Register of Historic Places, and 11 of these buildings still stand today. The first building on the list is the Bonneville Hotel, which was built in 1926 and 1927. The hotel is an excellent example of Spanish colonial revival style, which is rare in Idaho Falls, and boasts ornamental cornices, round arched windows, molded bands of stone, balconettes surrounded by low-relief sculptures, and a red-tiled mansard roof, all on a brick veneer building. It was built with the intention of bringing a first-class hotel with convention facilities to the city. To meet the needs of the growing city, the hotel was remodeled in 1951 and currently is undergoing a $10 to $11 million renovation for affordable housing, which will have over 40 housing rooms as well as commercial and office spaces. The Farmers and Merchants Bank building was built between 1896 and 1897 and was remodeled between 1911 and 1921. The original building was named the DeCoster Building and was designed in the Romanesque Revival style with red and white sandstone and metal and concrete cornices, while the remodel, which happened around the same time as the name was changed to the Farmers and Merchants Bank building, is reminiscent of the Renaissance Revival style with a brick veneer. The building has more recently been remodeled into small shops on the first story and office space on the second story. The Hasbrouck Building, which was built in 1895, is an excellent example of Romanesque Revival style constructed with lava rock and a rustic stone facade. Segmented arches with tall keystones and raised semicircular legend stones with the inscription Hasbrouck 1895. The building is also the best remaining example of a stone masonry commercial building in Idaho Falls. It first housed a general merchandise store, later a furniture and crockery store, and then a post office. The storefront was altered in the 1960s with the addition of a tile and brick veneer. The interior was recently remodeled and is currently vacant and open for lease. Hotel Idaho, which was built in 1917, is a nearly unaltered example of the Renaissance Revival style with its rustic stone, raised flat columns, pressed iron cornice, storefront entablature, raised brick, and inset diamond and rectangularly shaped concrete panels inscribed with Hotel Idaho in 1917. The upper windows are Chicago style, while the front corner pillar fixtures are considered Art Deco. Originally, it housed a business college as well as a lodging facility. Later, a portion of the main floor was occupied by the Hart Ellsworth Auto Company, and eventually that became a cafe near the hotel lobby. The hotel closed in 1979 and was renovated into office spaces, which remain today. The IOOF building, which was built in 1909, is representative of the Romanesque Revival style, boasting 4 towers with sheet iron caps and raised garland decorations, Chicago-style windows, and an Art Nouveau stained glass panel, and a corbel table with the raised letters IOOF. Its round arched doorway was bricked in, and the storefront was remodeled sometime around the 1940s or 50s. The lodge was a focal point of cultural activities, including the Independent Order of Odd Fellows, which was the first fraternity to allow men and women. It also housed a grocery store, an undertaker, and the Star movie theater. The building is now home to a specialty store. The Idaho Falls City Building, which was built in 1929 and 1930, is an excellent and unaltered example of a monumental public building built explicitly from the Beaux Arts tradition. It has sandstone, terracotta, and rose-colored brick veneer, with double-fluted Ionic columns, decorative bands of terracotta, low-relief carvings of curving and floral motifs, a legend in the attic story above the main entrance which reads City Building, and it's flanked on both sides by sculptured eagles and Idaho Falls inscribed in the facade of the attic story. Although the interior foyer with skylights has been remodeled into offices, the lobby still retains its distinctive tiles and decorative detail. The building is still used for municipal and utilities offices for the city of Idaho Falls. The original Idaho Falls Public Library was built in 1916. The original building is representative of the Renaissance Revival style with its red brick and windows with flat brick relieving arches, scrolled terracotta keystones, and the metal cornice and brick edging that extend along the entire circumference of the structure. The double metal doors recessed between large brick piers, the floral leaf and egg terracotta decorations, and the thin rope-like columns, as well as the rear extension, are all representative of the Art Deco influence of the 1930s and 40s modification. After the library moved to a larger facility, the Bonneville County Historical Society lobbied to save the vacant building from demolition in 1975 and renovated it for the Bonneville Museum. In 2002, construction began on an expansion that tripled the museum's size, and it was renamed the Museum of Idaho. An additional expansion was just completed in September of 2019. The Crest Building, which was built between 1930 and 1932, is chronologically the last commercial Renaissance Revival-style building in the Idaho Falls downtown area. It has brick sidewalls and a terracotta facade boasting pilasters with egg, dart, and garland-molded capitals, a cornice with scroll-like dentils, bas-relief terracotta angels, and attic edging with raised letters which read Crest. The building is now used by a technology company, Channel Blend LLC. The Montgomery Ward Building, also known as the Alstrom Building, was built in 1928 and 1929. This building is a great example of Renaissance Revival style with Art Deco influence, with its orange and burnt red brick veneer, Chicago-style windows, brick pilasters with plain molded concrete capitals, flat relieving arches with oversized keystones, geometric colored glass, patterned brickwork, and storefront tile work. The building was originally erected as the Montgomery Ward and Company department store, and today it houses the Happy Chinese restaurant and offices. The Shane Building, which was built around 1915, was designed in the Renaissance Revival style. It has light and dark rose-colored brick, a band of terracotta caps that edge the top, brick pilaster-like columns that divide the facade into bays, and a cornice that is impressed with stars. The main entrance is surrounded by a terracotta entablature with lion heads and a heraldic shield. Early uses of the building included a women's clothing store, grocery store, furniture store, and offices. Today the building is broken up into office spaces. The Underwood Hotel, also known as the Ross Hotel, was built in 1918. This building is a more elaborate and decorative example of Renaissance Revival style with its light to dark burnt red brick, the stepped profile capped with concrete, metal scrolls, egg and dart molding on the metal cornices, brick columns with pressed iron capitals embellished with heraldic shields, and decorative brickwork. The building was built for Jenny Underwood and is an excellent example of the commercial enterprises available to women entrepreneurs during the early 20th century as Idaho was helping to lead the way for women's rights. The hotel served passengers departing from the Oregon Short Line Railroad Depot. Today, the building is used by the Joshua D. Smith Foundation, which supports disabled adults. There are many more historical buildings around the Idaho Falls area, and other buildings may be found eligible as they reach 50 years of age. Author of Past Meets Present, Kathleen A. Hunter said, "A knowledge of our heritage provides continuity and context for communities and orients them in their decision-making." I hope this presentation has inspired you to learn more about the history of Idaho Falls. For more information, check out the Bonneville County Historical Society, the Museum of Idaho, the historic downtown walking tour of Idaho Falls, and www.downtownidaho.falls.com. This presentation was composed using the following sources for information and photographs.